Good morning, and it's Lilia from here, Scotland, as if you didn't know. And just give me a second, I need to make a couple of adjustments because Facebook makes things as awkward as possible. So I need to change my audience setting, otherwise people don't get to see what is there. So today I'm going to talk to you about autoimmune, long COVID, type 2 diabetes, MS, all these different issues that people are faced with these days. And there are no real drugs or surgery in order to fix it. So we're looking at ways that we can make an impact on our health without basically, sorry, give me 2 ticks and then I can fully concentrate. I don't know why it does this, but it hides everything. There we go, that's that one. Yeah, people are going to the doctors and not being able to get the results that they need because there are no drugs or surgery for what is perceived to be lifestyle situations. So let me just close that down. Yeah, here we go. It's fine. So you can see I've got Bodhi beside me here because I've been using Bodhi to help people to understand how we can address these issues. Now, what we need to remember about labels and concepts is they're based on information that people have, including ourselves, including me. I suffered from chronic fatigue, depression. I got postmenopausal arthritis. I had a terrible reaction to the yellow fever vaccine when I went to India. So I've had to work on my own health and my own healing. That's really where we get most of our passion from, is if you've been feeling terrible and you've done certain things and you start to feel better, you want to tell other people about it. But obviously, if you follow me, you'll know that really the big, huge wake-up call for me was when Joanna was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 16. And I had this voice that came through me saying, in 30 to 40 years' time, we'll be appalled that we did some of these treatments to children. And I had no idea where that voice came from. Still have no idea. But it made me question, and it was back in the day before the internet. Why do we get this sick? And then how can we get better without creating another health issue, which is quite often what happens. So obviously what we want to be looking at is prevention. The body doesn't just break down, it's an ecosystem. And it'll knock. It'll come knocking, and it can be a rash, it could be a headache, it could be brain fog, it could be bloating, it could be an ache or a pain. And then what do we normally do is we'll take a painkiller, we'll take a glass of wine, a joint, whatever is our thing, shop. We'll distract ourselves from what the body's doing. And then the knock will get louder and louder and louder until you eventually are forced into getting a diagnosis around what your incredible energy system, ecosystem is actually doing. So take arthritis as an example. I didn't even realize that arthritis was a byproduct of the menopause. The menopause is a really interesting one for me because I don't think you really can understand it until you've gone through it. And I've pretty much sailed through compared to a lot of my friends, but certainly had a total lack of drive. I just stopped really caring about anything. It's just actually that bad a thing. And then obviously I started getting a menopausal belly because obviously my carbohydrate tolerance completely changed. It's as simple as that. You have to eat less carbohydrates to maintain your weight. And then I started getting these aches and pains, which became exacerbated after my father's death, which is really common, that you would become very acidic when you're in grief and you can have more aches and pains. So there's nothing really unusual around that. But that was when I thought, oh, I am not. My dad's family, they all talked about their rheumatics. And I was like, I'm not living in a body with pain. No chance. I know how to change these things. But what was interesting was that it was only when it got to a certain level. So you could have a pain level or an ache level of 3 or 4 and you just ignore it because you can. Then when it gets up to 6 or 7, when it starts waking you up at night. Now I'm using pain. It's a symptom, right? But there's also all sorts of other symptoms that I'm sure you've ignored as well. And then eventually it becomes intolerable. And then very often you'll take painkillers, right? Instead of going, right, okay, what is the body trying to tell me? Because our bodies communicate to us in feelings and not in the normal way of language. Sometimes it can be words. For me, that loud voice spoke through me. And that's why I'm sitting here today in front of you, because I became obsessed about why we get sick and how can we get better without causing another issue for the body. So this is why I use body, is to really explain about this ecosystem from what we put into our mouth, where it has to travel, and all the way through. And these, what we call routes of elimination, gallbladder, liver, kidneys, everything gets filtered through there. It goes through this like football field worth of intestines. And they think the main thing to really understand about this is there's the trillions of microbes living inside and on this, exactly the way you would see in a reef. We're a host for a whole lot of life. And when the host, which is us, the body, gets taken over by parasites and worms and fungus and mold, the same way as anything in nature, our health and our body will start to deteriorate in quality. And we know now as well, we have as many neurotransmitters here as we have in the brain. And we know that if this isn't working right, the brain will be foggy. And then we also know when we get stressed, the vagus nerve goes into all the digestive organs. So you cannot just think of your gut biome health only with what you eat and what you drink. We focus very much on nutrition and obviously hydration, which is key. But hydration is not just about water. Hydration is about the health of your cell membrane, which is about your fats. And the further we go from the equator, we have very fluid fats, oils. And then the further up we get to the colder countries, the more saturated fat we need in the diet, because to keep warm, and we've got less sunlight. So for our hormone balance, our essential fat profile, our fat intake is key. And we have been terrified of fat. And contrary to what we've been told, fat makes you thin, not fat. It doesn't for your arteries. It's just, we've been fed so many mistruths. Now, I'm not saying if you didn't eat a whole load of crappy fats and didn't eat any vegetables, your arteries won't get furred, because they will. But we're talking about high quality Mother Nature's foods here, and balance. So when you have a healthy digestive system and healthy lungs, because get this, as we breathe, and if you breathe properly, if you may be breathing up here if you're stressed, because that's what you're supposed to do when you're in fight or flight. When we breathe properly, we massage these organs and we eliminate. The breath work is very detoxing. And that's why you can start to feel sick if you do a lot of really dynamic breath work. So the lungs and maintaining healthy lungs. Somebody asked me about COPD. We saw one of our friends, his COPD, his measurements, I'm not exactly sure what the measurement was, but it had improved by something like 18% by doing the Wim Hof breath work. So I know that's a thing. If you start exercising the lungs. Now, what's happened with a lot of the incurable, which they're not, autoimmune diseases, is that if the lungs start to fail, we think it's a one-way path. If the digestive organs start to deteriorate, well, that's wear and tear and it's just aging. It's bullshit. Every single one of these organs has a phenomenal, and you probably know about the liver, the intelligence in there, the blueprint for healing is there. And even aging, I saw this when I ran the 3-month healing community, which was a bid to show if you just do these things every day, the body will respond. The body's not the problem though, is it? It's the mind. So we have shown definitively, if you eat great food every day and do the right things every day, your body will heal itself. Categorically, know that. Done it myself, did it with 9 people in a 3-month experiment. But then what happens when you take this ecosystem back into its old environment? When you start thinking, because obviously this is, I need to bring in the technology that we have here. When you thinking, and you're excreting the stress hormones without even knowing it into your bloodstream, the vagus nerve is firing off, disrupting your microbiome and disrupting your digestion capacity, because it's thinking here. And if we can calm this, keep out of the stories and the labels and the concepts, then this calms too, and the body can do what it needs to do. So really what we're talking about is taking you into a state of restoration, repair and rejuvenation, and out of the fight or flight state. Now, a lot of people's stress, because we can measure this on our HRV, is subconscious. And, you know, I've had a couple of people recently that think they're not stressed, and then and I know they are, because you can tell by the way people speak. It's obvious, you know, there's a level of urgency, shall we say. So that's what's great about measuring with the HRV, is you can see the stress. Not me saying you're stressed, it's your body talking to the software and the software giving you feedback. And we have technology to give you feedback. But I always say, unless you're ready and willing to make some changes, don't get the test. Don't get any tests. If you just want to take drugs and surgery, that's what the system's good for. It'll do a test and it will give you drugs or surgery to fix the problem. And that is a way to do it. But now we're realising a lot of the chronic autoimmune issues, there are no drugs and surgery. All that they can do with the drugs is mask the symptoms. It doesn't make it go away, because it's never addressed the root cause. Now, what I want to talk to you about today is things like long COVID, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, all these things which are the body will heal itself given the right environments and primarily given time. But you can assist in that process. And, you know, what happens in here is that we put things into the mouth, or we inject things in via the arms or whatever into the body that were never meant to go in there. And that's primarily heavy metals, mercury, aluminium, things that were never designed to go in the body. And then what happens is it's primarily the dentist and the doctor, but also a lot of cooking utensils are totally carcinogenic. So things get into the body here and they land somewhere in the digestive system. So say you've got a little bit of mercury in there, which is super neurotoxic. And I'm talking microscopic particles here that you wouldn't be able to see. Although I know when I went to the dentist, used to be spitting out these fillings for ages afterwards. So that was getting in. Of course it was. Then what's coming in via all the jabs that you got. Although not nearly as many when I was young as what they do now. 23 they're given to a 1-year-old child here, which, I mean, you're just asking for autoimmune issues with that level of stress in the body. So say it lands in there and it sticks in there and the body can't break it down, right? So then the body sends some fungus. Now, what we know about fungi, fantastic creatures that they are, half plant, half animal, is they help break things down to put them back to the earth. So the fungus will come here to break down the heavy metal, but it can't. There's certain protocols you have to do to get rid of heavy metals out the body, and it can take a long time. So more fungus, and then you create a little micro system there. Parasites come, worms can come, viruses, whatever, you name it. I don't even care about the names, because when you think about it, it's like what happens outside if something's not getting fresh water and sunshine. It gets rancid, doesn't it? Maggots can come. Think of your bin even. And this is what can happen inside. You start creating another little system in here that is not helpful to the host, which is you. So what happens when you get dysbiosis in the gut? You then can, maybe it's bloating, maybe it's fatigue, maybe it's a foggy brain, maybe it's headaches, maybe it's joint pain, flu-like symptoms, chronic fatigue, all of that. And every symptom you can think about could be coming from your gut. So we can, with our Genius Insights system, now I'm going to be interviewing the guy who created this system on Friday at 2:00. So tune in if you want to see it. So this is mine. So if I go on here, what I'm looking for, two main things is, how's your digestive system working and how's your nervous system? Are you driving in first gear? So on here you'll see, can you see that? Limes, bacteria, mold, parasites, biofilm, fungus and virus. That's all the things that can go right and wrong in the digestive system. Now, what you have to remember is this is also a snapshot in time, like all tests. I'm not really a big fan of tests, except if you're willing to take protocols to balance out and sort your digestive system. And basically with this, it's the number that tells me. The blue tells me this has been an issue for a long time, and the red tells me this is an issue right now. Now, as I use my protocols, which I'm not going to go right into today because I'm going to be teaching them on this course, and I'll be streaming it out live, so you will get the information, is how you address all of these things and how can you measure that what you're doing is working. And what I would say is, for me, it's the fatigue. As soon as my fatigue starts to, my eyes get quite like sandy and heavy, I know, right, parasitic situation. And what I didn't fully realise back in the day was, because I knew parasites were a thing, was the egg situation and how you feel better, but then, of course, the next generation hatch and eventually you have the same issues again. So we're getting more and more information around that. But the best test you can get is how you feel. So we give so much power away. I feel great, but you almost want somebody to give you the actual evidence that you are great. Because all these numbers mean nothing. If you feel great, then your body's dealing with all of that. So when it comes to autoimmune, it's simply a case of the immune system is struggling. Now, it won't have happened overnight. But what happens in life? Well, we come in, don't we? We know we come in with our ancestral garbage. We come in with a lot of good stuff as well, but we come in, genetically we're made up of our ancestors, of our biological mum and dad. And then obviously we have all the way we're weaned, are we breastfed, all of that's contributing to the health of our immune system. What kind of food did we get when we were younger? Did we have a lot of love, a lot of attention, a lot of music? All of that stuff is going to impact on your health and your immune system. And maybe you had a hard time at school, maybe the home you were brought up in wasn't very happy, etc. All of these things. Maybe you had accidents, toxic relationships, all the crap that we have, most of us. So all of this, of course, is being recorded somewhere in this energy system we call the body. So, for example, if somebody is abusive towards me, I hear abusive thoughts, I'm scared, my heart goes into contraction, my lungs, I start to breathe more up here, I contract into my digestive system. All of that is adding to the issues that the body is trying to deal with. And, the body is incredible. The fact that I'm still alive, I think, is nothing short of evidence that the body's incredible. Because I ran my body in first gear for decades. 3 young children, under 3, a lot of work, and then working and all of the stuff that goes on. It's hard work. And then eventually you start to get tired, right? Because you can do that when you're younger. And you just completely ignore the information the body's given to you. And then I was struck with chronic fatigue and I was floored. And that's not a nice way to live. You're tired all the time. You don't have that zest for life. That's the body just going, right. But of course, in our culture, we just ignore it. You can't take time off work. We don't have time to rest and repair and recover. We don't have the money. We have a 1-tier system, which is just drugs and surgery. If you want to explore anything else, you have to pay for it usually, or you go on a waiting list that can be a year, 14 months long. And that's really what Heal Scotland's about, is to bring you this information so that you understand your body in an entirely new way, and that you can say, okay, we know that eventually, for a lot of people, there's a straw that breaks the camel's back. And when it comes to cancer and the incredible work of Roger Hamer, he was diagnosed with cancer after his son died, and he just knew there was a connection. So some terrible trauma like that can be the catalyst. It could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Now, not everybody that loses somebody obviously gets diagnosed with cancer. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, if you're already stressed and stressed and stressed and stressed, and then something happens, and know the body can no longer manage. And that's what we're seeing now. So many people going on to disability because the COVID story, the COVID infection, the mandates, recommendations for ill health have pushed a lot of people over the edge. And we have a real crisis, a health crisis in our hands. And a lot of GPs, a lot of amazing GPs out there, they're recommending lifestyle medicine, which is simply, if we can't help you, my brother asked the doctor outright, if these health issues I have are caused by the vaccine, can you help me? And the doctor said no. So it's as simple as that. There is not another drug, there is no surgery that can help when you have these chronic inflammatory autoimmune issues. So, but that's not to say there's no hope, because there is. There's loads of things that you can do. But sadly, a lot of that information is not going to be available at your surgery. And some people have got amazing doctors and others not so much. There's really, really open-minded GPs everywhere. And I was cutting a GP's hair a few weeks ago, and she said to me, we're coming round to your way of thinking. And she said, and good for you for, instead of just moaning and groaning, actually doing something about it. But obviously, if this information comes from the doctor, people are much more likely to take it on than if it comes from a hairdresser. And I'm well aware of that, but there are a lot of people now waking up to, wow, the body's incredible. It heals itself. I can help. I can assist. I am actually participated in helping making it sick. And that's not a blame thing. That's just that unwittingly, I certainly know I didn't deliberately make myself sick, but I did, because I was so stressed all the time. So that level of stress, and it doesn't matter how good your food is. If you're running on that level of stress, it doesn't matter how good your food is. If you've got heavy metal toxicity, if you've got a fungal overgrowth, if you're fighting Lyme's, all of these things have to be addressed. You can breathe till you're blue in the face, quite literally, and you're going to feel good. But what we're looking at here is holistically all the things that you need to look at. If you came to me and said, well, I have terrible anxiety, I'd go right there. What's going on in there? Because I can teach you EFT, I can teach you the Sedona method, I can teach you to breathe, I can take you to a different place. But if this has got a dysbiosis in it that needs attention, this is where we have to go to support all these other techniques. So you can't separate it out. Now, this idea that, I took vitamin D, I took vitamin C, I did EFT, I did whatever, I did a parasite cleanse. All of these things have an impact on the body, but sometimes, if you imagine, you maybe came in with not a brilliant health picture. You maybe didn't have a fantastic childhood. Then you maybe went into some difficult relationships, and then maybe you were a single parent, and then maybe you lost your parents, and maybe have to look after your parents, and so eventually you're just like, oh my God. So imagine trying to heal again. It's very rarely just one vitamin is going to undo all of that, or even one pharmaceutical drug or one operation. It's slowly, gently understanding that I need to start taking some straws off the camel's back. And what we do know is the body can take years to heal some of the internal stuff. That what is called degeneration, which you imagine you've got a brand new washing machine and a 20-year-old washing machine. What one's going to spin the best? But if you've really looked after this washing machine, it's probably going to still be pretty good. But if you've overloaded it, it's probably not going to be. And the body's the same. How have we treated it? What have we given back? Are we giving it the stuff that it needs? The way you would if you had a horse or a dog, What are you giving it to make it the best version of itself? What are you giving the body? Now, we know enough about food. We don't really need to go, just eat food the way Mother Earth gave it to us. Don't complicate things. But there definitely are situations now where we have parasitic overgrowths. Lyme's is a big, big issue. And there's loads of different ways to treat all of these things. And that's when it gets confusing. So when and if you can come in this retreat, and you can come and stay, and you can also, I'm going to stream the information out live because I want people in their own homes to access and understand about your microbiome and about the switch in adrenaline and cortisol, and how we can literally with our own minds make our illness much, much worse. And nobody does that deliberately. And if you're long-term sick, it's only natural that you give up hope, because you don't understand that if you're going to regenerate any of these organs, it could take 2 to 5 years. So that's the reality, because we're so used to going, well, you get that for a 5 or a 10-day course and you're better. But what can happen is, of course, and sometimes antibiotics may be needed, but you have to know that a lot of the times you destroy a lot of the other biome, and again, you'll feel better for a while, and then you're out of balance again. So you are the person living in there. You're the person doing the thinking, doing the perceiving, doing the believing, doing the eating, doing the drinking. You are the master of that energy system. And, you know, it's, the way I see it is, the nutrition's pretty easy. Don't eat shite. Simple as that. Drink water, drink herbal teas. You'll be fine. What is more challenging is if there is overgrowth, fungus in there, candida, parasites, worms, they can cause havoc. And how can we truly understand what is the best way forward for this? And so greens, very cleansing and detoxing and healing. What I will tell you is, if you choose something that's too extreme, you'll not be able to sustain it and maintain it. You can change your microbiome in as little as 5 days by eating a diversity. It's incredible how quickly you can change your microbiome. But can you sustain that for 2-3 years in order for you to start truly regenerating this system that we call the body? And that's why more healers now are going for a slightly longer and slower approach to balancing the bioterrain, because it's something then that people can do. And there's things like DMSO, MMS, low-grade hydrogen peroxide, all in very minute doses that can really help get rid of the fungus, as can a lot of oregano oils, black seed oil, starving the body of sugar and carbohydrates, and often that can even be fruit as well. You can see how it can start to get confusing. So what we'll be doing in this retreat is we'll be using the Genius Insight technology to find out where your digestive system's at. We'll also be using, I'll just play this and let you hear. Anybody that's done my breath work knows that we deliver these sound frequencies. So what happens here is, in through the ears, and that information goes in the body via the ears. It's all frequency, right? And everything has a frequency. And what I do at my breathwork sessions is I deliver minerals, Bach flower remedies, essential oils, vitamins, hormones sometimes, amino acids, to really get the body into that expanded state of receivership. And it's maybe sounds really weird to you that you could deliver information into the body via the ears and via the nose and via the eyes in terms of sunlight, and obviously via the skin as well. Because when you start to supercharge your cells, which we're going to be doing at the festivals this year as well, we're going to have a whole day on the Friday in Skye and in Tarbert where we're supercharging the cells with all this information. But then, and the body will respond in real time. You will start to feel and see the difference. But then the body goes back, doesn't it? So it's the repetition, and this is where we come into the communities. What are we doing in our communities to sustain and maintain this level of energy and health? And hanging around other people, we've become obsessed with nutrition. And I mean, there's nobody likes to eat more than me. But really, we need to now start really thinking about this. What are you thinking? Is your thinking stinking? If you eat organic, delicious food and it comes down here and the body starts to extract the goodness, and then you're like, she said that and he did this, and immediately you come out of the digestive state into fight or flight. You can actually turn and ferment that food with your thoughts. And the vagus nerve is firing. You don't digest. Sometimes you'll get diarrhea. The food will come right out. And, it's so interesting how many hormonal and digestive issues are going on right now. And they're pretty much directly related to diet and stress. And you can see it. You can feel it. You can't do this stuff. I mean, I've got this stuff going in my own body all the time. I'm obsessed. What's going on? And I'm listening. I can feel and I can hear things. And you know how easy it is to switch it. But the thing is, nobody else can switch it for you. And that's what the retreats are for. And that's what this healing centre is for. This mini retreat we're doing on autoimmune is if you're struggling with chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and you're like, the drugs aren't working, I need to do something for myself. Not everybody's there yet. Not everybody realises. I think it must be nice to just turn up and take a pill and think you're going to get better. Sometimes that works because you just believed it, right? So, but for a lot of us now, we're realising that this is my responsibility. I'm living in here. I'm believing in here. I'm perceiving in here. And, it can be really challenging to keep your level of motivation up. Especially, we're all around you. Things are a bit haywire. So that's why we have to be doing it as communities. And we all need to get together and make sure that our kids are getting really good quality food, cut back in the amount of crap they're getting, especially when it comes to additives. And, find out, do they have a dysbiosis in the gut? And can we all work together as mums, as grands, to improve the health picture of our kids? Kids are getting diseases that only old people used to get. We can change that. Now, when it comes to getting poisoned, trust me, you do not want to go and buy a feedback machine if you're a hypochondriac. There's so many things in the environment now. And we've had so many viruses. COVID was a very obvious one and nobody could have avoided it. But there's a whole load of stuff come out about what's coming out of these biowarfare labs. And, it's the body, our bodies are absorbing that. We've got Wi-Fi, we've got artificial lighting, we've got makeup, we've got body care things, body products. It's in the food, the water. Don't get me started. It's pretty much all the elements have a level of disruption in them. And so therefore is not really any surprise, is it, that we're feeling tired and we're wabbit and our immune systems are not just keeping us alive. They're not really managing to heal us. So when you come on the course, we're going to look at parasite cleanses and deworming. If that's an issue for you, it might not be. If you've done a lot of foreign travel, the two ways most of the problems come in: foreign travel via food, the water, and sex. Simple as. There's things getting into the body that weren't ever meant to get there. Now, you think if you were living in Argyll, for example, like me, and you never ever went anywhere else, and there was no supermarkets, and you just ate the food that was available on the land and in the sea, we'd be pretty well fed here. And the body understands, if you look at it all as vibration and shapes, the body recognises a lot of things. But now what's happening is the body doesn't recognise a lot of the stuff that's going in. It doesn't know what to do with it. So it's either firing it right out the other side, it's bloating or storing it, because a lot of our obesity is stored toxicity. And it's very, very simply the wrong percentages of the macronutrients, which is your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. And when you start to understand as soon as you change, not the amount you eat, the time that you eat, and the percentages of your fats and proteins to carbs, the weight will fall off you. People are suffering right now because of ignorance. They do not know the percentages of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats that they should be eating, depending on what they want to do. And that will change throughout your life, depending on what you're working at, how much stress you're under. If you were going to be training for a marathon, you have to adjust your exercise regime and your diet. And it's exactly the same in life. If you're getting divorced, if you're going through, if you're grieving, if you're moving house, if you're moving country, all of these things put an unbelievable stress on your body. And what can happen is now as the waves are coming fast and furious, and I know that happened to me this year, it was just like, oh my God, give me a break from grief. It's because we're human, right? So you have to understand, right? And some of these things you can predict. Sometimes we know we're going to lose people because we get quite a lot of warning. Sometimes we know we're going to move house, we're going to have a divorce, or we're going to, our children are going to leave home, whatever it is, whatever the change is going to be. And we can start to prepare ourselves better. Because understanding this, baby, this is the physical side. Obviously, that's pretty well covered now. What you eat, what you drink, and, looking after your internal organs and your routes of elimination. Because what happens is here, when you get a lot of stagnation in these organs, and so it's a bit like, I always use the analogy like hair in your shower or your bath. So if there's a lot of debris in your routes of elimination, a lot of the toxicity quite simply cannot get out. And that's why it's really important when you start to detox, whether it's by what you're putting in, whether it's saunas, whatever, that your routes of elimination are clean and clear, and all the debris that you're about to release into the body can get through. Because if you don't, you're going to get headaches, you're going to get sweats, you're going to get pain, you're going to get discomfort, rashes, all of that, because the body will try and find another way to get it out. Because as soon as you start going, there's stuff in here, because think about it, all you want is stuff that's in here out. Via the urine, via the bowels, via vomiting can happen, via sweating, via, the nose, mucus, etc., breath. That's the way things get out the body. So we can utilise our temperature via the saunas. We can utilise the amount of light, the amount of food when we eat, breathing differently. We can parasite cleanse, herbs, spices, hugely powerful for inflammation. Viruses are they're controversial because really the body is dealing with that stuff every day. It's just that on occasion, it's again the overload, the straw that breaks the camel's back, and suddenly you just don't feel well. And I think that was clear as well during COVID, where people that had other things wrong with them, what is it, the comorbidities, I think they call it, lovely name. So if you were already struggling with your health, then the infection or the jab could just have been enough to knock you over the edge. And that's when people had terrible pain in their joints and their backs, and symptoms that were maybe just niggling before became all encompassing. So hopefully, if anybody's got any questions, feel free to fire them into the box, or if you're watching this on replay. This is what we're going to be covering. So what should you eat? How can you deworm, have a parasite cleanse? How does that look for you? What are you capable of doing? I know that some people are so unwell they can't retain the information. So we're going to be recording a lot of our information so that you can listen to it again on our YouTube channel, because it's sometimes impossible to go, oh, what does it do again? So on the retreat, you'll go home with a very bespoke and specific plan for you, so that you'll have complete clarity, and you'll have homework to do in terms of your attitude, your commitment to the protocols, your limiting beliefs around can you heal, because some people, if the doctor tells them it's incurable, they will never, ever even Google people that healed it. And I heard Brian Clements from the Hippocrates Institute speak years ago. He was mind-blowing, that man. He said there is no disease that has a name that he has not seen healed. but it doesn't come from a pill. It comes from the willingness and a desire to change and to heal. And, just that knowing that your body is a self-healing innate mechanism, and when you start really changing what you're perceiving and believing, and maybe you can't believe, I said to one of my clients with MS, say, I am healing. And she said, I am healing. I said, how does it feel? She said, it feels like a lie. Because if you've just swallowed the story whole that it's incurable, then it will. But that doesn't mean to say you can't change that belief. And that's really what we're looking at, going into the subconscious. What is in there that is holding you back? Because really what we're teaching now at the Wild Energy Medicine Retreat, which I'm doing 2 of them. Hi, Pete. What we're looking at teaching is it's the flow of energy that goes through the body. Because what we know and what you'll never see in a biological model is the energy centers that run up the middle of the body that affect the organs underneath. So when you're drawing in energy from your energy centers and giving out energy from the energy centers, that's likely the organs, the emotions, the ki, the minerals that are all related to these organs. I mean, it's such an exciting time for healing. And if you can embrace this, even if you don't believe me right now, but you're willing to look at it, just open your mind to, well, why would they say it's incurable if it's not? Because they didn't know. They don't know. Still, a lot of doctors don't know, that think people are healing and curing, defying the odds, as Kelly Turner says. They were told they were going to die, that it was incurable, and they defied the odds. Tens of thousands of people are doing it now. But because we're so tied up with Big Pharma, and that's the only model that we have on our NHS. And I know you can go to the Beatson and you can get lots of other beautiful therapies there, but they're seen as it'll help you feel better today. That's what we should be doing every day. And we don't see things like massage and fascia work and family constellations and letting go as medicine, but they are medicine. Because the more straws you can take off your camel's back, the more energy you give back to your immune system. And just for today, you've taken action and you're going to feel powerful instead of powerless, because that's what it comes down to douse your hope and to tell you there's no way you can heal. I can't believe anybody believes it nowadays, the information we've got online. So that's Heal Scotland mission. What if you can heal? What if you're living in an intelligent, phenomenal, innate healing energy mass and you've been looking at it all wrong? Imagine what would it take for you to open your mind and believe that you could be free from that pain, or you could even have a lot less pain. You could be free from that brain fog. You could be free from that fatigue. What would it take? Because what can happen is when you go down that, it's incurable. That's my fibromyalgia, my anxiety, and we own it all as if it's us, and it's not us. So when you go, right, what would it take for me to feel more energy? Now, I'm just like that. I want to be healed. But if you're a more details person, you would just work up, what would it take for me to have more energy when I wake up in the morning? Is there a way for this body to feel more vibrant and alive? And you start asking the right questions, because your language and your hope and your daring to dream and believe. And what can happen is if you end up taking a whole load of meds, you're going to be exhausted and you're never even going to dream of full health, which is all of our birthright. Hey, Giovanna, one of my homeopathy teachers has MS and the condition is not progressing thanks to knowledge and the she did it. She still works. Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that's really important, is that you can learn to live with certain things. I like things healed personally, but sometimes you just have to go, just for today, I'm actually fine, even although I've got a label, and even although I could go into the future and be terrified of what that's going to bring. And, I think certainly with something like MS, there's so many different variations of it. It's a label that encompasses a whole load of symptoms. So some people can live with it their whole kind of normal life. And obviously others it affects much more drastically. But it's the fear. And, you know, and I think it's got to be the same as the 12-step program. Just for today, what can I do? So when we put a virtual reality meditation headset on you, we can literally feed that. If you're not good at meditation, which I'm not, and I'm pretty good at visualizing, but we put that on the head and that information gets transferred all the way down the body. We put on the neurovisor and you watch the beautiful light and hear the soundscapes, and that information travels all the way through the body. And when you can repeat that over and over again, and this is why we need healing centres in every community, so that people who want to, because a lot of people are not going to change. They don't want to change. It's as simple as that. This video is not for them. This is for people that are fed up, being sick, and really, really want to educate themselves and take the benefit of it. I've got amazing people around me. Giovanna's one homeopathy. The healers that are coming to Skye, we're so blessed to have this magic going on in our country. But it's not for everybody. I get that. Some people's minds still stuck in the old system and the old view of the body, not realising, you know, the fence. Somebody once said to me, when I was working with heroin addicts, they said, you're on the other side of the fence, i.e. I'm not a heroin addict. And so what's the fence? What fence? These illusionary things that we put up. And, you know, people always say to me, oh, it's really, really deep. It's energy. Do not make unhelpful stories up around your body. Keeping it light as possible. Keeping can you even dare to dream? And maybe for today, you know, I think as you get older, certainly I don't have the same desires to do all the mental things that I used to. Still got some, but most, you know, I don't really care about being really crazy fit anymore. I used to love being really fit, and it's not really one of my goals anymore. Peace is my goal now. So, you know, your goals will change. What you need out of life will change. And I think for most of us now, it's inner peace. And even if, regardless of what, I wouldn't be taking any labels anyway, not unless I absolutely had to keep away from all of that, because I don't know how brave I would be if somebody in a white coat said, you are going to die. I don't know how I would be with that, or that you've got a disease that's incurable. So I'm just not going to dance with that. I'll listen into the body and do the things, keep my routes of eliminations clear as possible with my liver flushes, with all my herbal teas. I will do my breath work. I will keep my nutrition as clean as I can. I'll do my EFT, my letting go, etc. I'll be outside in nature as much as I can. Surround myself with my grandchildren, which brings me huge love and joy. All of these things, just for today, what can you do? And if you have a label that's really weighing in your mind, need to increase your blood flow. Right, okay, cool. Breath work, definitely. Have you got a label, a diagnosis? All right. Pluto just entered Aquarius. It will stay there for the next 20 years. Massive transformation in the way we communicate and the way we heal. Aquarius is about frequencies, and new technologies are in the zeitgeist. Yeah. I mean, there's more and more people starting to look at this energy medicine. It's definitely the way ahead. And I had a doctor come up to me at Bring the Noise and said, you know, have you heard about biofeedback? I was like, yeah, I've got the Quest 9 biofeedback machine. All of this stuff has been kept. I don't know. Who cares why we don't know about it? We don't know about it. But now we're understanding. If you do an ECG, that's working in your electromagnetic field. We take that for granted. All of this is all information. This is all given out a frequency. And this technology here is giving out frequencies. And we can use the frequencies to balance frequencies and sound. And we can support people who cannot support themselves. So, yeah, the mission is, you know, educate, inspire, support. 4th of January, we're starting in Sliggican and Skye, the most spectacular place for a healing centre you could ever imagine. Please share. Come in one of the retreats if you can. If you would like to come and you can't afford it, ping me a message. That is not an issue. We have a wee bit of a reserve to help people. All you really need is a really true desire. I can't fix you, so don't come if you want me to fix you. but I can help you learn how to fix yourself, and I can give you access to the best technology that's available on the planet right now via our Wild Energy Spa. Giovanna, homeopath, bath flower remedy is going to be there. If you've got young children, this works for anybody, for autoimmune as well, for Giovanna, but the way I really see it is if you want a medicine cabinet that is non-toxic for your children, for you, for your parents, come and learn from this absolute genius. She has just got so much information as well. She's also got a bioscan you can put your hand on, or you can send your hair to her, and she can do very similar to what this can do, find out what's stressing you, and then she will give you the right homeopathy remedies from that and recommend any flower remedies that you would need. So, and again, not everybody's into that. Some people just like the mainstream, that's fine. This is for people that are looking for other solutions. So please help me by sharing the video. Anybody you know that's got any of these autoimmune diseases, that's really fed up, that's maybe open-minded, wants to change, willing to look at their own energy system. Vida B is going to be with me from the 4th of January, looking at the family systems, because that's a really interesting one as well, because what we see a lot is our children parenting their parents, looking and trying to make them happy. It's so interesting to see how often that happens. And what we know from family constellations in the hierarchy system is that if you came first, you want to be looking forward and you look after the ones that come after you in the ideal world, but that's not always how it is. So when we really start to unravel and unhook from the ancestral pain, trauma, things that have been put out and ignored, we have a lot more energy flow. Remember, the electricity, the electromagnetic field flows, and we will feel much more vital just for today, because that's all we have. Anyway, that is all from me. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will chat to you all soon. Remember to share, like, and